How do you keep moving forward when it feels like a part of you died with the person you lost? No matter how often we try to prepare ourselves for loss, when it finally arrives, everything changes. Time seems to freeze. The world continues to spin. People carry on with their lives, unaware that your reality has just collapsed. Well-meaning words of comfort often fall flat. They don't ease the ache. They don't silence the emptiness. You're left standing still, trapped in a moment that feels like it may never end, caught in a space of sorrow that others can't fully grasp. Inside, something cries out without a sound, pleading for answers, for understanding, for peace. Death has always been one of life's great mysteries. Since ancient times, it's frightened us, wounded us, and reminded us that we're not in control. We're also mourning the version of ourselves that existed with them, one that can never return. And yet, paradoxically, death is the one certainty we all share. It's something we must all face. But what if loss, no matter how painful, is not only an end, but also a beginning? At the core of our inner world lies something ancient and shared, a structure that links all human beings through loss. Carl Jung, the founder of analytical psychology, grasped the truth many of us still struggle to understand. Death doesn't just transform the person who passes, it changes those left behind. When we lose someone we love, we're not only grieving their absence. Loss forces us inward. It compels us to ask questions we've long avoided. It shakes the foundations of who we thought we were. In Buddhism, it marks the beginning of a new cycle. Even in our dreams and myths, death often appears not as a closing, but as a threshold of passage to something else. Every farewell holds a difficult truth. Grief is not just about someone else, it is also about us. About who we were with them, and who we now must become without them. This is where Jung offers a different perspective. He invites us to look below the surface, to the deep layers of the unconscious. Jung called this the collective unconscious, a shared pool of emotions, symbols, and experiences that transcends cultures, languages, and eras. And within it, one powerful symbol stands out, the archetype of death. How do we turn heartbreak into growth, instead of letting it turn into lifelong suffering? Throughout history, across every civilization and belief system, death has rarely been viewed as just an ending. It's often seen as a transformation, not by forgetting, but by making that loss part of who we are. In ancient Egypt, death was the entrance to eternal life. This metaphor lives on in the human mind, a path not just out of suffering, but into a deeper understanding of ourselves. Losing someone we love triggers a deep transformation. It breaks us open, but in that breaking, it invites us to rebuild. We emerge changed, not necessarily healed, but transformed. And how we answer it shapes how we grieve, how we live, and how we begin to heal. And that transformation can uncover parts of ourselves we never knew existed. It has shaped how we've experienced loss throughout history. Because only by confronting this inner narrative, this silent mythology, can we turn pain into something stronger than suffering. But here's the hard question. How do we find meaning in pain? How do we look for light in darkness? That's the journey we'll take in this video. We'll look at the loss of a loved one through the lens of Jung's deep psychology. Not through avoidance, but through insight. Because even when life feels meaningless, even when grief seems unbearable, there is a way through. And it starts with understanding grief, not just as emotion, but as a profound psychological transformation. In the next section, we'll examine why death leaves such a powerful imprint on the human mind. We'll explore how the death archetype influences our emotions, often without us realizing it. Death frightens us. It makes us face the unknown. It destroys the illusion of stability. But ask yourself, are we really afraid of death itself? Or is it the idea of disappearing that truly haunts us? Is it the thought of vanishing, of being forgotten, of becoming nothing? This question is not just philosophical, it's deeply personal. Jung understood. Death is not only biological, it's a universal symbol, a primal image rooted in our shared unconscious. From ancient cultures to the modern world, death has been interpreted in many ways, but its emotional impact is always undeniable. So why is it still so difficult to accept? The answer, though uncomfortable, is simple. We live under the illusion of permanence. We tell ourselves there will always be more time, that our loved ones will always be here, that we will have endless chances to express what we feel. Until suddenly we don't. And when that moment comes, the shock hits like a tidal wave. We are mortal. And the ego, that part of us that believes it controls everything, struggles to face this truth. It resists. It clings. Because to accept death is to accept that everything we love, everything we are, will one day disappear. That's why grief hurts so deeply. It's not only about someone else, it forces us to confront our own impermanence. This is where mythology, ritual, and belief come in. These are the tools humanity has used to cope with death. The Egyptians built pyramids to secure life beyond death. The Aztecs celebrated their ancestors through rituals like Dia de los Muertos. Tibetan monks meditate on death to face their fear. Each tradition offers a path toward finding meaning in the inevitable. But in today's world, many of these practices are gone. We live in a society that urges us to move on. Grief is often dismissed. Pain is hidden. Life is expected to continue as if nothing happened. And this is the real problem. When we ignore death's deeper meaning, we lose one of its greatest gifts, the chance to look inward, to reflect, to find meaning while we still can. So how do we face this reality without being overwhelmed? How do we turn grief into growth? The answer lies in viewing grief as a process of inner transformation. A journey that brings not only pain but also truth. Because even when everything feels like it's come to a halt, something inside us continues moving. And that changes everything. Grief is like a storm. At first, we drown in it. Then we resist it. But eventually, we learn to float. Still, there are no shortcuts. The pain cannot be skipped. We can't pretend it's not there. Jung recognized this. When someone we love dies, we don't just lose them. We're confronted with a mirror. A mirror that shows us the hidden parts of ourselves. Every stage of grief is a doorway. Each one draws us inward, whether we want to go or not. It starts with denial. That first response, this can't be real. But what are we really denying? Jung's concept of the shadow represents the parts of ourselves we hide from. In denial, the shadow becomes our refuge. We hold on to routine, pretending nothing has changed. But deep down, we know everything has. We bury fear, sadness, even guilt, hoping if we don't look, it will fade. But it only gets buried deeper until it finally erupts. Then comes anger. When denial breaks down, rage steps in. We ask, why did this happen to me? We lash out at ourselves, others, even at the universe. Jung explained that our inner pain often gets projected outward. It's not hatred, it's fear disguised. And when the anger subsides, we enter the next phase, bargaining. Here, the ego tries to regain control. If only I'd done something differently. Maybe if I try harder, this will go away. We cling to the idea that we can reverse the loss. But deep down, we know this is just a pause before the full weight hits. And then comes the crash. Sadness. Deep, heavy, silent. But this stage, often mistaken for a disorder, isn't brokenness. It's a bridge, a doorway to the most hidden part of ourselves. Jung spoke of the need to face this darkness, to dive into it without fear. Because in that depth, away from surface distractions, true transformation can occur. This is when grief becomes something more. Not just suffering, but a portal to something greater. When we stop running and begin to feel everything, something shifts. It's not giving up. It's not forgetting. It's rebirth. Reaching acceptance doesn't mean the pain vanishes. It doesn't mean we're healed. It means we've learned to live with the pain. We stop fighting it. We carry it with strength. Acceptance doesn't erase what happened. It integrates it. Jung believed true growth, true individuation happens when we stop clinging to what we've lost and instead understand that love doesn't die. It changes form. It moves inward. And in that moment, we realize life goes on, not because the loss was insignificant, but because it mattered so much we refuse to let it dissolve into despair. Clara understood this after losing her brother suddenly. At first, she denied it, believing he would return. Then came the fury, the screaming, the blame. She bargained, pleaded for another chance. And finally, she fell into a sadness that made the world go quiet. But in that silence, something shifted. She realized her brother hadn't truly vanished. He lived on in her memories, in what he taught her, in how she had changed because of him. She never stopped missing him. But she did learn to move forward, carrying his presence, not as a burden, but as part of who she had become. Because grief isn't only about losing someone. It's about rediscovering yourself in ways you never imagined. You can't avoid the pain of grief. No one can. But you can let it guide you. Let it become your compass in the dark. And when you do, your life will never be the same again. Grief doesn't just take someone you love. It leads you back to yourself. It also forces you to face something even more unsettling yourself. It acts like a mirror, reflecting the parts of your inner world you've tried to avoid. Losing someone is like switching on a light in the darkest corner of your mind, revealing things you may not have expected to find. But ignoring these pieces doesn't make them disappear. Instead, they stay in the background, shaping how we behave, relate to others, and view the world. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the parts of ourselves we've rejected, hidden, or left unresolved over time. One of the most powerful triggers that can bring these to the surface is grief. But that loss doesn't just concern the other person. It forces us to face parts of ourselves that were silent or neglected. The shadow holds our deepest fears, buried insecurities, lingering guilt, and quiet griefs we've never fully processed. It brings up guilt for what we didn't express, chances we didn't take, and time we thought we had. Suddenly, time doesn't seem endless. It feels fragile, fleeting. They've always been there, tucked under our routines, masked by distractions, buried beneath the noise of daily life. She even braced for tears. But what came next surprised her. A surge of emotions, anger, shame, guilt, a heavy wave of everything she had kept inside. Grief has a strange way of reaching into us. It's not just about sorrow for the person who's gone. It breaks something open inside. Suddenly, we're not only missing someone, we're facing our fear of being alone, regret over unsaid words, and the helpless thought that maybe things could have turned out differently. It's not only about what was lost. It's about what remains echoes inside us. When someone dies, part of us dies too. Grief uncovers what was hidden, the fear of loneliness, the sense of not being enough, the worry that life won't ever feel the same. And in her mother's absence, it all surfaced at once. Every experience of grief is, in its own way, a psychological initiation. It is about meeting a new version of yourself, someone who has walked through loss and come out changed. It is not only about what you lost, it's about what you were never ready to face. They hold on tightly to what was, avoiding the shift. But Jung taught that pain can be transformative. And in that pause, we start asking one of the most human questions of all. What if? But here's what many don't realize. Those feelings of fear and guilt didn't come out of nowhere. Grief doesn't create new pain. It strips away the distractions and shows us what was always waiting beneath. Anna learned this in a deeply personal way. When her mother passed, she expected to feel sadness. For years, she'd avoided addressing the complexities of their relationship. Words went unspoken. Wounds remained unhealed. She wasn't just grieving her mother. She was grieving the parts of herself she had denied. That's the real depth of grief. It's about who you were before and who you must become now. It's painful, it's uncomfortable, but it's also an opportunity. When we finally stop running from ourselves, when we choose to face our shadow, something starts to shift. Not temporarily, but in a lasting way. Grief, if we allow it, can be more than a goodbye. It can be a return to the most truthful version of ourselves. The pain of loss can feel endless, like a void nothing can fill. But what if that same pain holds the potential to become something more? Jung didn't see suffering as a dead end. He saw it as a sacred process of change. It's not just about letting go of someone you loved. When we lose someone, the change isn't only external. It happens inside us too. And this is where many people resist. Pain can be the raw material for growth. Yet we're often taught to escape pain, move on, stay strong, suppress it. But grief doesn't work that way. Not by pushing it down, but by feeling it, understanding it, and allowing it to change you. Take a blank page and write a letter to the person you lost. Say what you never had the chance to say. Express your truth without holding back. You don't get over grief. You integrate it. You move through it with awareness. There are effective ways to support this process. One is symbolic writing. Often, what hurts most isn't their absence, but the silence, the words we never said. What we lost in the physical sense remains with us through our thoughts, memories, and the imprint they left on our lives. Another method is active visualization. Jung used this to interact with his unconscious. You can do the same. Close your eyes, imagine the person, speak to them, and listen. These don't have to be religious, just meaningful to you. Light a candle, visit a place you both loved, or create a space to honor their memory. These small acts help give grief a place in your story. But one day, he found her old notebook filled with reflections, quotes, and thoughts. What would they say to you now? This process, too, offers healing. He realized grief didn't have to define him. It could guide him. He began to help others through their loss, turning his sorrow into purpose. What did they teach you that you once overlooked? How did they shape your view of life? What ideals can you carry forward in their name? But grief, like all deep psychological processes, isn't just an ending. It's a threshold, a passage to something new. After a major loss, many people notice these signs. A song at the right moment, a dream with insight, an object appearing unexpectedly. And then there are personal rituals. They're seen as signals from the unconscious, reminders that not everything is lost. The person lives on not physically, but in how they shaped who we are. It can leave you breathless, broken, unsure if you'll ever feel whole again. The goal isn't to forget. It's to grow through the pain. Because deep sorrow can also be a beginning. When we stop seeing grief as something to avoid and start seeing it as a teacher, something shifts. It's not an easy path, but those who walk it are never the same. Because while the absence is real and the pain deep, that same pain can become the beginning of something new. When someone we love dies, their absence can feel all-consuming. It can seem as if the emptiness will never end. Tap the notification bell to stay connected to content that supports your inner growth. Jung spoke of synchronicity, those meaningful coincidences that feel too precise to be random. And most of all, thank you for continuing. In depth psychology, these aren't just emotional comforts. Their presence is felt in our thoughts, choices, and memories. Martin understood this. After losing his wife of 20 years, he was overcome with grief. Life seemed meaningless. One sentence stood out. If I ever leave before you, I want you to keep loving life for the both of us. That moment shifted everything. Every loss leaves us with a question. What emotional legacy did they leave behind? Take time to reflect. Because their true presence isn't in their body. It's in how they changed you. When we understand this, we see that loss doesn't only break us. It also reshapes us sometimes for the better. Losing someone you love is one of life's hardest experiences. But there's something we often forget. Grief doesn't just take, it also gives. It's a painful paradox, yet a meaningful one. It changes you. It opens you. It deepens your sense of life. Death isn't just an ending. It's also a transformation. Jung believed everything in the psyche evolves. Nothing truly disappears. It always leaves its mark. Grief, though walked alone, is a bridge toward a deeper understanding of yourself and of life. And if any of this resonated with you, if you saw yourself in these words, then maybe this message came at just the right time. Maybe this was the moment you needed to remember. Even in deep pain, you still have the power to grow, to change, to begin again. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means opening your heart again to love, to trust, to live with greater awareness and depth. If this video spoke to you, consider subscribing and share this with someone who might need it. Sometimes one message at the right time makes all the difference. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing to feel.